Is it working? Oh yeah, looks like. Good day. My name is Martin Schweiger and I'm a patent attorney in Singapore. And I'm also a powerlifter. And I take you with me on my daily walk. I try to walk more than 10,000 steps per day. So that costs me about an hour of my time. And I try to catch 2 birds with 1 stone by doing so. Or 3 birds. Because I have to run an errand today. Quite spectacular. My vintage motorbike broke down, so I sent it to a mechanic to take the engine apart so that I can buy spare parts for repairing it. My life is full of tricks in that sense. Before I had my metabolic syndrome, or that was the diagnosed, I rode my motorbike a lot, almost anywhere. I mean, even a few hundred meters down the road for having a lunch or so. And after I was diagnosed with a metabolic syndrome, I have sold my motorbike and bought a vintage motorbike instead. In Singapore, the vintage motorbikes cannot ride a lot, so you cannot use it for daily commuting, for example, because you have only so many days that you can use it. I believe it's something like 40 days or so, or 50, more than enough for me, because that forced me to walk more and to also I forced myself to use the public transport system. So I don't have a car anymore. And actually you don't need it in Singapore because there is Uber or the local equivalent, which is Grab. And that's also much cheaper than a car, by the way, and more versatile. Because it comes with a driver and you can send those cars to pick up people or even stuff. That's also why I like Singapore so much. It's a very easy to live city and still green. So, my vintage motorbike was broken for how many months? 3 or 4 months, I don't even know now. And that shows you already that I don't really need a motorbike in Singapore. And I mean, it forces me also to walk more, which is very healthy. I've lost 30 kg of body weight over the past 14 months, which is substantial. But I want to have it repaired. So what I do is I walk now to the repair shop that would take me roughly an hour or so. And I pick up those spare parts that are needed. And very likely I take the taxi back, because I don't like to carry the heavy spare parts, the heavy old parts. Very likely I need a new piston, and maybe also the cylinder reworked. And that would also then require piston rings and also a new set of gaskets for the cylinder head. And plenty of time to talk about my insights into metabolism questions. I really like that. I told you, right, that I put into the link. Please like the video and access my trained AI GPT that answers questions about metabolism matters. It helped me tremendously, and I even self-healed myself from metabolic syndrome. It helps me preparing for weightlifting competitions, training questions, food stuff, everything that has to do with health and fitness. The first matter I wanted to talk with you is about fasting and how often fasting. And I had an interesting discussion with a Grab driver. He is a practicing Muslim, and currently is Ramadan, which means that the Muslims don't eat and drink when there's daylight. And that goes back to the Quran, which is the holy scripture of the Muslim belief, and also to secondary literature, which is very old, more than 1,000 years. 1,400 at least, maybe 1,500. And I would recommend to read books that are older than the Gutenberg press, because only those books survived that were copied by hand, manually, from one piece of paper to another one, or papyrus, or maybe leather. Yeah. And of course, would you not only read one of those books, but several ones? I recommend the Bible, and then Sun Tzu, which is about war, from China. And of course, it's your own choice. There are not many books out there that are so old. So what he told me was that Muslims not only have the Ramadan, which is 1 month, where they dry fast during daylight time, but there is literature, secondary literature, that recommends fasting 2 days per week, which is what I do. But not because I'm a Muslim, it just happened to be so. I started water fasting 1 day, which is a Tuesday, and then
imagine 1 hour just to
I discovered dry fasting, and I do dry fasting after my water fasting day on Tuesday, which is the Wednesday. And I try to dry fast as long as I can on Wednesday. I usually make it until 6 p.m., 7 p.m. on Wednesday. And then I break fast. And then there are 2 ways to break fast. The one would be to replenish all storages, means glycogen, by having carbohydrates and water, of course. But if I just want to keep my weight, because I lose between 2 kg and 4 kg on these 2 fasting days, and most of it being water, only very little is fat. If I want to keep that low weight, the minus 4 kg, then I would just sip some water and eat maybe a little bit of protein, piece of meat. But during normal times, not before competition, I would just replenish because it's so nice. And just the exercise of driving the body into burning ketones creates metabolic flexibility, and that is a sign of good health. So, and my Muslim Grab driver also told me that the secondary literature, Muslimic secondary literature, talks about a David fast. I've heard of a Daniel fast, but never of a David fast in the Bible. And the David fast is fasting on alternate days, and that's highly regarded in Muslim circles. So essentially you fast, if you start fasting Monday, then you break fast Tuesday, fasting Wednesday, eating Thursday, fasting Friday, eating Saturday, and so on. And he told me that the Muslim literature says that this is very healthy. By the way, walking in the sunlight is also very healthy because the sunlight does things to your body that you cannot easily assimilate with taking supplements. So what I find is that, or what I learned from my Muslim taxi driver, is it's quite known to fast on a regular basis. For a long time. Yeah, and of course the Bible also talks about that. Several people have fasted, and it has been described as fasting, like Moses, 40 days, then of course Jesus, then Paul, Saint Paul, and a few other prophets. Which brings me to my next theme. I received an inquiry. Someone sent me a link with a weight loss program, and there were some promises made. The price was $57. It's an online course, and I was asked whether I would like to buy this one, and my answer was no, of course not. And why not? Yeah, because I know what you need to do in order to lose weight, and there are many ways, but they all can be grouped into two ways, large ways. The first one, you make your body to convert the fat cells into ketones. The intermediate stages are triglycerides and free fatty acids, which are converted by the liver into ketones. I believe also the kidneys. And then the ketones swim in your blood to the cells, where they are converted by the mitochondria into ATP, which is the energy currency in our bodies. And if you do that, consistently over a long time, then you would lose fat weight, which I've done. I've lost 30 kg of body weight, but not only fat. I also lost muscle mass, and I know that because I became much weaker. My lifted weights are now something like 45 kg below of what I could lift 2 years ago. But I don't really care, because I'm in a new weight class, and everybody there cannot lift as much as what I did when I was super heavyweight. That is one way of losing weight. And it is all about how to get the body into ketonic mode. And ultimately, you do this by depleting your glucose, the blood glucose, the glycogen, and by maintaining a calories deficit. There are ways that come with hunger and ways without hunger, but this is a way to lose, the very general way to lose weight, body weight, fat weight. The other way would be that is to remove the fat mechanically. And that is done, for instance, by liposuction. But that's the problem with that one is you cause injuries to the body, number one. When you enter the skin and suck out the fat underneath. And number two, you cannot remove visceral fat, I mean the fat around your organs. So it doesn't really, removing fat mechanically doesn't really solve any metabolic problem. It's more cosmetic. And doesn't make sense to me. In my case, I have almost zero subcutaneous fat. I mean, not zero, right? But very little. I don't think that is sufficient for me to remove that body fat. Now it's going to be a bit loud because I'm at the main road. This is an 8-lane road in Singapore. Nice. It's now 4:10 p.m. and we have a nice afternoon sun. Temperature is about 32 degrees Celsius. Let's go. A park. Most important piece of equipment, face towel against sweat. So my answer is no new weight loss course needed. It's more about being disciplined. And consistent over a long time. I told you my method for my coming 23 of 24 weeks weight loss. My plan is about to lose half a kg per week body weight. That translates to a calories deficit of 3,500 calories per week. So per day I have a calories deficit of 700 calories. My basic metabolic rate at my current body weight is about 2,100, 2,200 calories. My body weight is something like 105-ish, 106-ish, 100, yeah. But not in a depleted state. My calories intake therefore can be about, then my daily walk. I burn about 700 calories every day by walking, and also the strength training that I do. So if I eat about 2,000 calories per day, then I should lose about 500 grams body weight per week. At the end of the 24 weeks, which one I have already completed, that would be 12 kg lighter, of which is 10 kg body fat, hopefully mostly visceral fat. You will probably also see more fish. But I would also lose 2 kg muscle mass, because you cannot lose body weight by losing only fat. When my goal would be my body fat, total body fat, 20% of the total weight, And that would mean, so for 10 kg less fat. Ultimately, I would also have 2 kg muscles less. But it's not about 20% for the muscle mass of the 10 kg, is more an overall calculation. Jesus, my God. So, next thing. I told you that I experimented more with ketones and how to measure them, because I only believe in things that I can measure when it comes to metabolic changes. So I started with a urine test, ketone strips, and that worked very well. But as I lost more weight, these strips don't work anymore. And that's my hypothesis, because my body adapted to my fasting, and the body only converts as many fat cells or fat from fat cells into ketones as are needed for the cells, so that less ketones are spilling over into the urine than before. That means the ketones are there, but they're just not found in the urine anymore, because the body is more efficient in spending the energy in the fat cells. Smarter. I believe the body is quite smart. And not because the brain is so smart alone, but because the cells are communicating with each other, and there must be something like a collective conscience. In the body cells. They're definitely communicating with each other. In some ways. So, yeah, have you ever thought about large communities that do not have a central brain, and they still achieve what they were made for? Such as the ants. Even the Bible says in 3,000-4,000 year old literature that ants do not have managers, and still the ants populations achieve what they were created for. They also communicate somehow. Maybe I go into that another time. But now to my ketone test. So the urine strips, good for the start, but at one point in time useless. So I will give away my ketone strips. I already know someone who needs them. A second way to measure ketones is to measure the ketones in the blood. And there are finger prick type tests for ketones available, like the ones that you use for blood sugar measurements. I use blood sugar, I told you before, right? I measure my blood sugar every now and then. And there are these ketone strips, and the measurement values are similar to those in the blood sugar. It's a millimole per liter, just that the range is a bit different. Or maybe it's even the same. But the normal, I believe that there are three ranges. The one range is the one below 1.0, and that means if you have less than 1.0 millimole per liter of ketones in your blood, actually I need to clarify, there's not one ketone, but there are several ones. Ketones are families of substances, and the body has several of them, produces several of them, and these strips only measure one of the components, the most prominent one, and it's called BHB. This beta something, beta hydroxy butyrat, beta hydroxybutyrat rate. Interesting. Now we have an interesting challenge, because what you see here in the background is one of the expressways in Singapore, a highway, and you cannot easily cross it. There are bridges every now and then, or underpasses, and the question is now, does this walk lead me to one of those bridges or underpasses? I could go down there. There's a channel. It's walkable, and it leads across the Can I go through to the other side?
Yes, sir.
Can I walk through the other side?
Where are you from, sir?
I'm not a resident.
You're not a resident, then you are here for what, sir?
I just want to go over the highway.
No, cannot. Sir.
Cannot?
Cannot. No, resident, you cannot go through.
Yeah, I thought so. That's why I asked, right? No worries. Doesn't work. Huh. Yeah. I don't really want to swim, so I walk around this condo. Remember in one of the earlier episodes, I tried to do a similar thing and I ended up walking on the highway for 500 meters or so. Not good. So, for measuring the ketones in the blood, I have this finger prick method, and is said to be quite precise. Then there's the range below 1.0, where there is almost no ketosis, no ketones burned. I give you an example. This morning, after I woke up, I had about 0.2 millimole per liter ketones in my blood. It's not ketosis. Then there's another range that is about 1.0 to 3.0. That's good ketosis, optimal, they say. You can reach that on a dry fasting day. I believe last time I measured was on Wednesday, immediately before breaking fast, and my value was 2.0. And then there are ketosis of more than 3.0 millimole per liter, and I believe that's something that opens a new level. Number one, of losing weight, and number two, there are things in the mind that are happening. I can feel that when my body runs on ketones, my thinking is different, faster, and that could be enhanced probably by getting deeper into ketosis. Nice park here. He honked at me. I was in the way. So, a third way to measure ketones is indirect one with a breath analyzer. And I say indirect one because a breath analyzer doesn't measure ketones. The breath analyzer measures acetone. That's a substance that is created as a side product when the liver converts the free fatty acids into ketones. And the acetone is found in the breath. That's also why people around you don't like the smell that you have when you fast, because the acetone is a metallic breath. I know my acetone because I used that one as a thinner when I built radio controlled airplane models. So I know the smell, and I don't think that it's not good. I just, it smells like acetone. Friendly people. So this breath analyzer measures the level of acetone in your breath, and it can never be as similar to the urine test. It can never be as accurate as the blood test. So that's why my plan is also to play around with both for a time, so that I can switch to the breath analyzer once I know better how that works. I need to be careful a bit because it's now already 4:35 and I need to be at the workshop before 5, so 25 minutes left. But I should almost be there. Maybe 10 minutes. So for the breath analyzer, it depends very much on, number one, what part of air in your lungs you get into the analyzer, because if you inhale fresh air and blow it out immediately, then of course there would be less acetone contained in that portion of air than if you just don't breathe or breathe flat for several minutes and then keep enough air in the lungs to just blow for 10 seconds, which is the minimum time required for the breath analyzer to work. And then other substances would influence the measurement. For example, alcohol, the good old alcohol. And I tried it yesterday which means I had 2 glasses of wine against my principles before sleep, and 8 hours later my breath ketone analyzer showed elevated levels. The same evening when you drink the wine, the crazy levels. And then a bit further in the day today, levels of ketone halved despite me being in a fasting state, intermittent fasting. So now it's almost 5 p.m. and the last time I've eaten was yesterday evening, so I'm surely in ketonic mode somehow. By the way, that's a very good reason to use, if you're in a social situation where people drink alcohol and you're offered alcohol, then you just say, I cannot, because I must get my body in ketonic mode, and if I drink alcohol, I cannot measure that one, number one, and number two, the alcohol would prevent my body from burning ketones, because the alcohol is used first for producing energy. Sounds good, huh? Yeah. So for summarizing, these are my 3 ketone measurement methods. I've abolished the test strips. And I'm using the finger prick method, which is a bit cumbersome and also not really cheap. One test costs about $1. And also the breath analyzer, and I will use that one more. And not drinking alcohol, because of that, would even further promote my weight loss goal. Yeah, I believe that's all. Goodbye.